Hey everyone, welcome back to another video on React Native. So in this video, we'll be implementing PhonePe integration in your React Native mobile applications. So if you find this interesting, please do the like button and do subscribe for more such content. So let's get started. So let's initially check out what exactly we're going to build. So as you can see towards my right hand side, we have a basic good looking UI. So once the user presses on the amount or enters the amount and enters the phone number they want to pay the amount to and presses on the button that's pay with PhonePe, we need to implement the PhonePe payment integration, or something like a PhonePe payment gateway should open up containing all of the required payment options, like just how you see in your original app. Okay, so we're going to implement that in this particular video. So let's initially get started. Okay, so over here I've already created a fresh new React Native project and the design has already been shown over here. I'll be sending the entire code. You can directly copy down the design. And over here I've created a basic API folder that is with respect to the backend part, and we have a bunch of environment variables within the .env file. Okay, so here we're going to use the port, the PhonePe client ID, the PhonePe client version, your client secret, merchant ID, and all of these URLs. We'll get back to this in just a bit. Okay, and we have a basic package.json. These are some of the dependencies that we're going to use, that is cars, crypto.env, express, as well as nodemon. And basically within your index.js, we're going to start implementing the code over here for this particular tutorial. So initially let's get started. So as I told, within the front end part, what exactly is going to happen is once when the user presses on pay button, we're going to initialize a initiate payment function, which is going to validate your input, and it basically checks if at all your amount is greater than 100, and it initializes your PhonePe SDK with the init method. And here we are going to use the sandbox that is basically used for testing, because we cannot use the production, because once we're implementing this, that is to integrate React Native PhonePe, you need to have your credentials on the PhonePe Business website. You can head over to Chrome and you can go into this particular website, that is business.phonepe.com. Here you need to fill in a bunch of details regarding your business to get in the real or the production API key, so whatever that is. Okay, so as you can see, it is please complete your onboarding to access the production credentials. Okay, so for production it takes a lot of different and a lot of data to enter, like let's say for your business, if at all you want to add a business over here and integrate your PhonePe for your particular business. So as of now, obviously I do not have a business and I have just entered random basic details, and once you enter that, you would be given your test credentials. So once you enter all of the details, you can directly come to this option, that is developer settings. They would give you a client ID as well as the client secret as well as the client version. So use these details within your .env. So we're going to get back to that and we'll be seeing what each of the variables is going to do in that particular file. Okay, so let's initially get started by initializing basically your backend code. So let's come back over here. So as usual within your index.js, let's import the required things that we're going to use. That is, let's say express. So I'm going to say const express is going to be equals to require of express, and furthermore const course is going to be equals to require of course. So next one is going to be for the const axios, that is for the HTTP requests. I'm going to say const axios is going to be equals to your require of axios. All right. Next, your UUID, I'm going to say const v4 UUID v4 is going to be equals to require of UUID, and I'm going to say require of your .env .config, so we can access all of those environment variables. Let's create an instance of an app. I'm going to say const app is going to be equals to your express. All right, and let's choose the port, that is from the env file. I'm going to say process.env your port. In my case, I've chosen 3000, or I'm just going to say 3000 over here. All right, furthermore, I'm going to say app.use of your course, and I'm going to say app.use of your express.json, and I'm going to say app.use express.url encoded, and I'm going to say extended is going to be false. All right, so here I'm going to get in all of my environment variables, that is directly from your .env file. So you can basically add in all of these environment variables that we're going to use, okay, and get it from your env file. So here first of all I'm going to check if at all your client ID, your client secret, as well as the client version is there, because these three things are important for the payment integration part. So if not of your client ID or not of your client secret, yeah, even this can be done, or not of client secret, then in this case I'm gonna implement a console as of now, console.log or console.error missing PhonePe credentials. And I'm just going to say process.exit of 1. Okay, so let's discuss what exactly happens in the backend. So once you call your initialize payment endpoint, or once you press on the pay with PhonePe over here, it basically tries to fetch an access token from your PhonePe auth URL. That is this one. If you check out your env file, so you're going to use this particular endpoint to get in your auth token, and this token basically authorizes all of your API calls that we're gonna make. That is for status URL or create auto URL or something like that. Okay, let's come back to index.js over here, and that basically builds a order payload, and the payments type also we need to pass in. So we're gonna pass in PG checkout, and we're gonna send a post request to PhonePe's create order URL. So essentially now we're going to make use of these two URLs. One is for the getting of token and one is for creating of order based on whatever amount the user enters in your front end part. All right, so let's get started for getting the access token. So here I'm going to say after validating your variables, I'm going to say let access token is going to be equals to null, and I'm going to say let your token expiry is going to be equals to 0. I'm going to say const get access token is going to be equals to async method. Here I'm going to check if at all your access token and your date.nav is less than your token expiry, then directly return the access token. Here let's try to have in your try catch block initially catch of error. Okay, and let's try to log the error for now. So console.error auth token error or access token error, you can write in whatever you want to add, and I'm going to say error.response.data. So error.response.data or error.message. I think it's just going to be double R because that's what we have taken in the brackets. So error.message. Okay, and yeah, pretty much that's it. So within the try block, let's try to initialize the Axios over here. So I'm going to say const response is going to be equals to await Axios.post method. To this pass in your auth URL, and here I'm going to say new URL search params. So this is going to take in three things: client ID, client version, client secret, as well as the grant type. Okay, so I'm going to say client ID, that is going to be equals to your client ID from your environment variables. Next is your client version, so I'm going to say client underscore version, and here I'm going to say client version. Furthermore, the next one is going to be for your client secret, so I'm going to say client underscore secret, it is going to be client secret. Apart from that, I'm going to say your grant type, so grant underscore type, it's going to be equals to your client underscore credentials. Let's write that properly. Apart from that, this in turn is going to take in your headers. I'm going to say headers over here. I'm just going to say content type is going to be equals to, I think I've messed it up over here. So let's come back to the previous state. So content type is going to be equals to application / x, and then we're going to make use of the form URL encoded, and accept is going to be application / JSON. Let's add that over here. You can take a look at it. Let's try to format once. So let's try to implement the access token, formulate the value. So I'm going to say access token is going to be equals to response.data your access underscore token. That's how we access it. All right, then here I'm going to say token expiry is going to be equals to your date.nav plus response.data dot expires underscore in multiplied by 1000 minus 60,000. So this basically refreshes 1 minute early. Okay, so once that is done, I'm just going to say console.log access token fetched. So while we implement it, you can see the logs and you should also be seeing the token as well. So I'm going to say access token fetched and pass in that access token over here. Okay, that's pretty much it. Let's try to implement your get root. Your normal API. So I'm going to say app.get / it's going to be root, and I'm going to say PhonePe backend running, taking the request and response. Here just say result.send for now. So PhonePe backend running. Alright, this part is done. So now I'm going to initialize the payment that we're going to utilize in your app.tsx method for implementing the payment integration. I'm going to say app.post. It's going to be equals to your / initialize payment, initialize hyphen payment. It's going to have your async method with your request and the response in the callback. Here let's try to get in the try catch block. So initially try catch of error. Here let's try to have in a bunch of information over here for the error block. Console.error. I'm going to say payment init error. So payment init error. I'm going to say error dot your response. So here I'm going to say error dot response dot data or your error dot message. So I'm going to say error dot message. That's it. Let's try to send the response or result. I'm going to say result dot status of 500, let's say, dot JSON. I'm going to say success is going to be false. Passing your message. I'm going to say payment init failed. And furthermore, I'm going to say error. Just pass in this error itself. Same thing. That's it. So for the try block, we need access to 3 things for implementing this: your amount, your phone number, as well as the user ID. So const phone, comma amount, comma your user ID is going to be equal to request.body. Here first of all check all of these conditions. So condition check over here: if not a phone or not of your amount or not of your user ID, then here I'm going to say return result dot status of 400 dot JSON. Here I'm going to say success false. Message I'm going to say invalid parameters. Okay, so I'm going to say invalid parameters, just like this. So this step is done. So next, let's try to generate a normal merchant order ID, that is with the help of the UUID. I'm going to say const transaction ID is going to be equals to UUID v4. It's already imported onto the top. And here let's try to get the auth token. So I'm going to say const auth token equals to await. Just call the top function that we have used previously, get access token, just like this. Then let's try to, you can actually log the request payload, and here I'm going to create the order, that is order payload for now. So I'm going to say const order payload is going to be equals to an object. It's going to contain your merchant order ID. So I'm going to say merchant order ID is going to be equals to your transaction ID. Furthermore, your amount is going to be equals to number of amount multiplied by 100 in paise, basically. Okay, next it's going to be expire after. So I'm going to say expire after 1200, that is 20 minutes in seconds. And here let's add in a comma over here. Here I'm going to say meta info. This is basically an optional field. I'm going to say user underscore name is going to be user ID, and your mobile is going to be equals to phone number. Okay, then I'm going to say payment flow. This is compulsory to pass, so I'm going to say payment flow. So I'm going to say, let's write that properly. Type, it's going to be equals to PG checkout. That's the payment flow you're going to use. So PG, not OG, PG underscore checkout. Right, you can try to also log the order payload. So here I'm going to say console.log order payload sent with that particular order payload. Let's try to initialize your order response over here. I'm going to say const order response is going to be equals to await, make use of Axios. It's going to be dot post. Okay, so this is going to take in your create order URL. That's going to come from the environment variables. So I'm going to say create order URL, pass in your order payload over here. I'm going to say order payload and your headers, where we need to pass in the auth token. So headers, pass in the similar type over here. Contents type accept is going to be application JSON. Apart from that, we're going to have any authorization. So I'm going to say authorization. This is going to be equals to O bearer, everything in caps, and then your $auth token. Okay, that's it. You can try to log this as well. I'm going to say console.log order response, and then your full data, that is going to be equals to your order response.data. Order response.data. That's it. So you can try to get the token from response. I'm going to say const token is going to be equals to your order response.data. So you can basically try to construct the SDK payload as your JSON string. So that's the next step. So I'm going to say const SDK payload is going to be equals to your order ID, that is going to be transaction ID, then your merchant ID, that is going to be equals to your merchant ID. Alright, then your token is going to be equals to token. Then we're going to have your payment mode. So I'm going to say payment mode just like this, that is going to be equals to type. We're going to say pay page. So here we are going to say result.json. I'm going to say success is going to be true. Your request is going to be equals to, so request json.stringify of your SDK payload, and I'm also going to pass in your transaction ID over here. Here there's a comma. Alright, so that's it. So you can try to save the file. Yeah, so now the next step is, let's try to start the server over here. So here I'm going to say app.listen. This part is not yet done. Onto the port, so just choose the port that is over here. Okay, it's in small letters, so port, and choose in your function, add in the function over there, console.log server running on port 3000. Save. As you can see, just like that, it's working fine. This part is done, and it's also injecting all of the 12 variables from .env file. So basically the next endpoint that we're going to use is basically for the payment status, that is to check whether it is cancelled or success, something like that. So I'm going to paste in the code for that. You can take a look at it. So here we're going to make use of the transaction ID that's going to come from request.query from the front end part. Okay, and here we need to get in the auth token. Again, we're going to send the response for the status URL that is coming from your .env. If you would check that out, this is the URL to check the status of the payment. Okay, so that would give you what exactly is the payment status. Again, pass in the headers, and then you can send the payment status to the front end part, either success or failure. Let's try to save the file. This part is done. Let's head back to your app.tsx, define the initiate payment function. So app.tsx over here, and here before that, let's try to add in a bunch of details. I'm going to say const user id is going to be equals to a random set of characters for now, because we are just testing this out. And I'm going to say const merchant id, flow id, as well as the environment. I'm also going to add in the enable logging, app schema, as well as the callback URL. So you can take a look at all of this. Make sure you add in these values. And yeah, I think I forgot to tell one more thing, that is a package to install. You can come back to package.json. You need to install all of these. So the main ones being yeah, that's it, React Native PhonePe. I think I was showing this one. So these are the packages for the front end part, that is Axios, React Native. Already installed your React Native PhonePe PG. You can actually check out the official documentation as well. So I was referring to this documentation. Okay, and you can basically check out the React Native SDK setup, and it has clearly given all of the steps over here. You can basically try to add the plugin to your React Native project, install it, and these are some of the steps given for Android, that is for the native configuration in the Android Studio project. So it says you need to add the below code to the repository section of your project level build.gradle file. So you can make sure you add this particular code. And yeah, the next step is build or sync Gradle. Go to the Android folder inside your app and sync or build Gradle by typing ./gradle build on the command line terminal. So these are the steps for your Android part. If you're on Android, make sure you implement this. I'm on iOS, so I'm going to follow 2.2 over here. We need to add in all of these details within your info.plist file. That's what I've done. I can show you that. Let's come back over here, and once I open my info.plist, right below your false tag or your array, you can try to add in this one, and you can try to include all of these strings that we need to have in over here. And we can basically do a pod install, and then we can, so after doing this, you can actually do a pod install, and then again you can try to rebuild your application. So these are the steps for your iOS. Okay, so you can also try to add this inside of your app.delegate, app.delegate.m. I don't think I've done this. Even without that, it is working fine. And pretty much these are the things. You need to use your init method. You can go through the code over here, and the next step is 3.2, that is start transaction. So let's try to implement that over here. We're going to do something similar, use the init method as well as implement the transaction similarly that they've given over here according to the documentation. Come back over here and to your app.tsx, let's try to define the function that is initiate payment. So here I'm going to say const initiate payment is going to be equals to async function. Here I'm going to check if not of amount or not of phone, then I'm going to say return alert dot your alert, it's going to be error, and here I'm going to say enter amount and phone. Okay, this part is done. Let's try to initialize const amount in paise. So I'm going to say const amount in paise is going to be equals to your number multiplied by 100 of the amount. That's how you convert it into paise. And here it should not be less than 10,000. Basically the minimum payment should be 100 rupees. Okay, so I'm going to say if amount in paise is less than 10,000, which equals 100 rupees, then here I'm going to say return alert dot alert error, I'm going to say minimum amount is 100 rupees. Minimum amount is 100 rupees. Okay, here let's try to have in your try catch block. So try catch of error. You can try to log the error, console.log or console.error with that particular error message. Within your try block, let's directly try to initialize the function basically. So I'm going to say await your PhonePe payment SDK. You can import that from your React Native PhonePe PG. So I'm going to say PhonePe payment SDK Okay, so here I'm going to say .init. This in turn is going to take in your environment, that is obviously testing as of now, merchant ID, your flow ID, as well as the enable logging. So if you check out the docs over here, in your init method, these three things are passed: environment type, merchant ID, flow ID, as well as enable logging. In our case, is going to be true. Let's try to import this onto the top. That is, here I'm going to say import your PhonePe SDK, not from this package, from React Native PhonePe PG. Okay, I think that's the correct one. Let's try to just copy paste if at all there is any spelling issues. Okay, the P is missing. Yep, that's it. This part is done. So now after that, you can actually try to log the message saying that the SDK is initialized. I'm going to say console.log SDK initialized, and here I'm going to say const response is going to be equals to await axios dot your post method, import axios from axios, or let's do that manually over here. Here it's going to be equals to axios dot post, hit that endpoint that is initialize payment, http localhost 3000 / your initialize payment. This in turn is gonna take in your phone amount to pay user ID. Timeout I'm gonna say 30,000 over here. So here once it's done, you can actually try to check the response.data.success. Okay, here I'm gonna say const having your request as well as your transaction ID. So transaction ID is going to be equal to your response.data, and here I'm going to say const SDK payload is going to be equals to whatever is there. I'm going to say json.parse of the request and callback URL is going to be callback URL or your app schema. Essentially, this is basically for the navigation that is after the payment is done, or if at all the payment is cancelled, where exactly the user needs to navigate. In our case, automatically we have just given my app, and it should automatically bring back the user to this particular application itself from the SDK. Here I'm going to say comma or I'm going to say app schema. Okay, so here there are a bunch of console.logs as well as conditions. I'm just going to add it over here. So you can try to look at it. The first console.log says SDK payload enhance. This is the JSON.stringify of payload. Second one is attempting start transaction with the app schema, with that particular app schema, and then make use of the PhonePe payment SDK. Dot implement a second method that is start transaction, which is going to take in your app payload, your SDK payload as well as the app schema. So you can directly show these details, and if at all it is success, we're going to call this, okay, because it is not going to work. So this won't actually work in real, because even though we enter a valid phone number and even though that particular phone number has a valid UPI ID, it would basically show it as a dummy user itself, because that particular number won't be properly tracked and we won't be able to see that particular UPI. Okay, so basically PhonePe actually tries to mock that particular UPI as a dummy user. You'll be seeing that in just a bit. Let's try to save this file. I think that's pretty much it. You can try to give this a try. You can try to initialize on press onto the pay with PhonePe button. That is over here. I'm just going to say on press pay with PhonePe. Not pay with PhonePe. Initiate payment. This is the one. So let's press on that. As you can see, error, enter amount and phone. I'm going to enter my amount. I'm going to say 100 rupees. Enter random phone number. Okay, so I'm just going to press on pay with PhonePe. After we have done everything correctly, automatically it should initialize the payment SDK and we should be seeing the payment gateway being open. Let's press on pay with PhonePe. Alright, so we do have an issue. It says bad request and auth token error. A form field client version must not be blank. Okay, let's look into that. I think there is some issue while writing the code. So let's come back to index.js, and over here with respect to your auth token, it says auth token error, so something with respect to this one. Okay, so form field client version. Okay, wrong spelling, my bad. So client spelling is wrong. For both of them it's wrong, so it's going to be client underscore id. Here also client underscore id, I mean client underscore version. Safe. Now let's try to give this a try. Pay with PhonePe. Okay, so we do have another issue. So there you go, access token is fetched, auto payload is sent, but it says payment init error. Okay, so let's look into this issue as well. For some reason it's erroring out at this particular point. Okay, so let's see where exactly is that issue. PG checkout, PG underscore checkout. Okay, yeah, that's the correct spelling. Okay, so finally got to know about the issue. So basically over here we're not returning the access token itself, right? Because over here we are saying const auth token is going to be equals to await get access token, but here we are trying to get the access token but we're not returning it. So we need to say that return access token. And over here I think there is one more issue with respect to your spelling mistakes. So result dot, it says JSON, which is written wrong obviously. So safe. I'm going to say pay with PhonePe. Okay, so again we're getting that error which is payment init error, that is HTTP 415 unsupported media type. Okay, we need to write it in this way. Okay, so headers accept application / JSON, then your content type application / JSON, as well as authorization passed in the auth token. So now it should definitely work. Let's press on pay with PhonePe. So it's processing payment and boom, there you go. So just like that we have all of the options: PhonePe, GPay, Paytm. So even if you press on verify ID, it won't show you the real person's name. So let's say verify ID, it should say dummy user. Okay, it says UPI ID is associated with dummy user. So basically PhonePe tries to mock your UPI ID, links it to a dummy user as it's shown onto the screen. So this basically allows you to test on the UI, that is without needing of the real UPI payments. And also you need to have in a proper business account for testing it out, and also have in your proper environment, that is for production. Here we are using sandbox, that doesn't query your actual UPI databases. So it basically uses placeholders to simulate responses. So in production you can try to enter a real phone number linked to a UPI account, that is PhonePe, GPay or Google Pay, or even other options as well, just like this. Okay, so that's pretty much it. So once you press on verify and you press on pay, it should just take you over here. Even if you open up that particular UPI app, it wouldn't obviously show the request for you to pay. So that's it. So this is how we implement a proper PhonePe integration into your React Native app, that is in the test version. You can try to close this automatically. It should trigger this endpoint that is within the app.tsx. Your payment status, this one, I'm going to say close, and transaction cancel, yes. As you can see, transaction failed, cancelled by the user. Okay, all right. So yes, that's it about this video. So we basically learned about how we can integrate your PhonePe SDK into your React Native applications. So if you found this interesting and useful and you learned something about this, please do the like button and do subscribe for more such content. So yes, that's it about this video. So let's see you in the next video, and then thank you for watching.